Welcome back, everybody. Hope you had a great weekend. All right, well, the WHL's trading deadline, it came, and then it went yesterday, right around 3 o'clock local time. Now, there were some pretty big deals made out there. All was quiet on the Medicine Hat Tigers front. However, joining me on the desk to talk about that and, of course, much, much more, he's had a busy little stretch here. Tigers head coach and general manager, Willie Desjardins. Willie, thanks a lot for coming in. I know it's been kind of a whirlwind for you the last 5 or 6 weeks. We'll get to the trading deadline, what was and wasn't done a little bit later, but let's start with, obviously, the World Juniors. Right or wrong, the expectation for Canada, and everyone knows this is, if it's not a gold, then it's a disappointment. So whether that's a right or wrong thing, it's a thing. What do you say to your team after that overtime loss to the States in the dressing room with the silver medals? What was kind of the feeling around it after?
It was disappointment for sure. I think that everybody wanted to win. I thought players played hard. I don't think it ever crossed anybody's mind that we wouldn't win. Like, it wasn't that we went in thinking that it wasn't going to happen. So when you prepare that way and it happens, it's just kind of a shock. There's really nothing to be said. Like, like, what do you say? Guys have tried, and the big thing we just talked about is that the most important thing was go as hard as you could, and nobody had any regrets. Like, at the end, you'll regret it if you didn't play a good game, if you didn't try, and nobody had any regrets in the end. Every guy tried, and it just didn't work out.
There's so much focus in Canada on Team Canada that sometimes some other storylines throughout the tournament might get missed a little bit. What about the Russians? Because they always go in one of the highly touted teams, one of the most talented, individually skilled players, and it didn't get a lot of airtime in this country anyway, but they seem to be one of the biggest disappointments of the tournament. Were you expecting more from the Russians?
The Russians are a good team, and the thing with the Russians is they kind of play as hard as they have to sometimes. And they just got surprised by the Swiss. If they get by the Swiss, then they're a real dangerous team and would have been real hard to beat. So it wasn't that they weren't good. It's just that on any night things can happen. And, they just ran into a real hot goaltender. And, maybe they took the Swiss a little bit lightly. And, you just can't do that.
I know that you've often spoken of running into a hot goaltender, that's always a concern. Benjamin Kahns was the goalie for the Swiss. Talk about him, having seen him, talk about just how good that kid is.
I don't know. I think, and every night, you can't say maybe he's that good. He was that good in the tournament. Like, he didn't have anything particular about his style that made him stand out. All he did was stop pucks, and that's the main thing. And, you look at different times, you'll see where guys maybe stop 50 shots in a night for a win where they won 3-2 or 2-1. So he was just real good at that tournament. The last game the Swedes scored 11 goals on him or something like that. So, that'll happen too. So he was good, though, in the big game they needed him against Russia. He was real good.
When you talk about big games and players being good, I don't think there's any doubt that in any situation, anytime, Jordan Eberle is just one heck of a hockey player. But talk about that gold medal game, because as far as I understand, after the first period or so, he was dealing with a bit of an issue that could have forced a lot of guys out of that game. And not only did he not leave the game, but comes up yet again at that tournament, just money.
Yeah, he was good. It was funny because I didn't notice he got hurt. And he never said anything about it. After the game when I was doing the interview, post-game interview, I just said, he wasn't as quick as I'd normally seen him. I said, but even given that, he still found a way to score, and that's a sign of a really great player when you maybe aren't at your best and you still find a way. And then I found out that he'd taken a shot in the first period and was probably most games he mightn't have kept going. So he pretty incredible player, and he plays with lots of passion, lots of pride.
Does his skill set from what you see translate to the pro level? Because you see a lot of players, not only from Canada, anywhere, that can do that at the junior level and international at that age, and then can't, for whatever reason, carry it into the pros. Is he someone who you see that translating? Yeah,
I think it will. He's got real quick hands. Like, it's funny, we had him against us in the shootout when we were in Regina, and I'm thinking, well, what do I tell my goaltender? Because you tell him one thing, he'll just do something else. Like, it's not like he has one great move. But if you get your guy leaning towards that move, he'll do another move. So you're kind of stuck. So he has great hands, and he's a real good player.
How many times did you hear this from people after that tournament? Hey, you should really go and trade for Eberle at the deadline.
I didn't hear it that much, to tell you the truth, because people probably knew that we wouldn't be going after him. He's going to be a guy that would be, I thought if he moved, he might be going to a Brandon or someplace like that. But I talked to him after the Regina game, and I think he's probably happy to stay in Regina.
Right on. You mentioned Brandon. They were one of the teams that made a big splash anyway, as far as the one guy they got in Travis Hamonic. Calgary went out and got some of, I think, Kamloops' best goal scorers and whatnot. What did you make of the deals that were made, kind of talk about your club in a bit, but the deals that were made that didn't involve the Tigers?
Yeah, I don't know the other teams real well, so I don't know why certain things were done. Like, so it's really hard to judge. Like, time will judge everything, you know, where guys are at. And I know all the general managers spend lots of time before they make any deals, so I know they've thought them out, they've researched them well. So, you know, there's two ways of looking at it. You got to look at what you have now, and you have to look for your future. So there's deals that are done, you know, considering both. So I think probably from all ends it was probably beneficial for all the teams.
Right. Now, I guess the news out of Medicine Hat is that there were no deals done. You're obviously, I guess, happy with your team moving forward. What were the last 48, 72 hours of that trading window looking like? Were there phone calls being made, or were you kind of just happy to sit and watch things go on around the league?
No, you always look to see if you can improve, you know, both now and for the future. And if there's a right deal there, then we'd do it for sure. But at the same time, if we felt we weren't happy with our group, if there's guys that we didn't feel committed or whatever, then we would have made a move. But all our players are real good. Like, they battled hard. They fought through a lot. When I was gone, and some tough schedules, and and I think they committed to us, and I think it's good that we committed to them. And I think it'll be good. I know we'll play hard down the road.
Expand on that a little bit. Let's finish by your team while you were gone. Tough scheduling, a lot of road games in there. I'm sure you had at least half an eye trained on how the Tigers were doing while you weren't there. Pretty impressed and happy with how they did in your absence.
They did. There were some real tough stretches there, and they battled hard. Like, you looked, lots of way to look at it. The shots, the penalty minutes, things like that, and they played with a lot of energy. I think Sean and Darren did a great job with them. They had to be ready for those games, or they wouldn't have been successful. So, and you got to give a lot of credit to the leaders too. Like, they did a real good job. Like, it was a tough stretch, and over Christmas time too, lots of things can go on. So, the guys played real good.
Right on. Well, thank you very much for coming in. Congratulations on a job well done out in Saskatoon. Good luck with the rest of the Tigers season. I guess more immediately Wednesday night with Spokane here.
Okay, thanks, Lou.